Hi.
Evening, blessings, people. Welcome to another edition of Take Note Live. Today, we're talking about wealth building. I'm not hosting today, I'm a panel member. So I'm going to hand over to our director, Mr. Michael Brown, who's going to be hosting this evening's discussion. When he's ready. You need the mic.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, welcome, and welcome to our panel members. Just before we start, one of the things we generally do is just to give a quick update of what we've been doing since the last since our last meeting. And there are a couple of things that I just want to feedback on. One I'll feedback on, another one Simon will feedback on. When I
He hasn't even told me this. He ain't even told me this. It's okay.
And one of them is we'd had a series of discussions around things like women's experiences of primary and secondary care, around mental health issues, and some other things. And what we identified from that were some real opportunities for women to really sort of come together as a network to provide a voice of their own. Because if you like, up to now, it's been us, if you like, as primarily as men representing women. So we had a consultation a couple of months ago, and that was really positive in terms of the call for a women's network. So we're hoping that in the next month or two, that will come to life. Yeah. The other one is actually around our men's group and the work that we've been doing on active men.
Yeah. So, um, based on one of our discussions, probably like a year ago, um, what came out of it was that um, there was certain things that needed to be put into place for men to play a more active role within the community, supporting communities and families. So from that discussion, there was a few think tank meetings, some planning and development, and now we've developed some training which involves a residential, which we're looking to take a group of men from the community and go through a process of development, self and personal development, and then come back and then start to do some delivery within that supporting families and young people within the community. So that's where we are with those two projects.
Yep. So, I mean, we're quite excited by them.
Mhm.
Just to let you know, and um, let's move on. So the topic for this evening, the panel will introduce themselves in a moment, but the topic for this evening is community wealth building, and I think, yeah, as we put it together, we were probably thinking to ourselves, community wealth building. Will people know what that is? Let's just say, break it down. Community wealth building. You understand each of those, put them together. What you think it is what it is. Yep. Now there are different takes on it, and I'm going to be asking each member of the panel as they introduce themselves, just to give a little bit of take on it from their individual perspectives, what they're doing in this, and then we'll sort of get the ball rolling. So can I start, Junior, with yourself?
Yeah, Junior Hemans. I'm delighted to take the invitation for today. For me, my background, my previous role, full-time role, was a consultant working for PwC. Having left that, so I should also say I was also very active in the community of Wolverhampton where I live, where I got involved in many community organisations, ran some of them, worked in a number, and became a committee member on a number of them as well. So having done all that, working at PwC, I am active in supporting the community in a number of ways, and was one of the members of the community that got together and we bought the Heritage Centre in Wolverhampton. And that was as a result of a closure of the cultural centre. So we now use the heritage as our community asset. One of the other things is I was involved in setting up the mental health project at the ACCR, which is still going after 30 odd years. One of the longest established Black mental health projects in the country. So I see community wealth building in a number of ways. Personal development, as you touched on, rightly so, under your men's program, community development, and that's around cohesion for me, as well as building that cohesion and inclusivity and understanding, because time moves on and people's understanding needs to move with it. And then personal ownership, asset ownership, and that's something I strongly believe in this country, which is an island. Property and land is king, and we need to own more of it.
Thank you, Junior. Ken?
Yeah, my name is Ken Ivey. I'm from an organization called Opal. Opals mean our people, our legacy. We've been going for 10 years now, and we're going to celebrate our 10th anniversary at the end of November of this year. We are a co-op framed organization, and we are looking at building wealth in our communities. Yeah. And we find it a very difficult task. It's difficult because the ideas are there. I'm sure we've all got some good ideas of how to do things, etc. But the one thing that isn't there is the wealth. The wealth isn't there. And my aim, one of our aim, I should say, is to try and create that wealth. How we to do it, we don't know yet, but we actually try. So yeah, that's us for now.
Yeah, so I'm Simeon Moore, Big Zim, Simbo. Yeah, and I'm a director of Mind's Eye Development. And I'm also very heavily involved in a work that's taking place around the community, working with young people, and working with parents. I'm also involved in a community wealth building scheme called the Nubian Cooperative Society. So I've not too long become involved in that, along with a few of my family members. And for me, it's really community wealth building. The first thing that comes to my mind is group economics and us pulling our finances and resources together to build wealth. I mean, with the income that I make myself, it's very hard for me to go and do certain things, but with myself and 5 of my friends, with our incomes, and we start bringing those incomes together, we can do a lot more. So I'm involved in anything that supports those kind of developments.
Okay. Thanks very much. Let me just try and sort of see if I can summarize those things, just to throw it out there for feedback as to what people think. And we heard Junior talk about personal development and community development. Before we then moved on to what is a really consistent theme, I think, which is about ownership of assets. Yeah, ownership of assets. We heard Ken say that there are lots of good ideas, by which I think you mean enterprising
Absolutely.
ideas. Lots of enterprising ideas, but a lack of finance for it. And again, I'm assuming that means finance from within the community as opposed to external finance. Yep. And we've heard Simon talk about group economics and a collective approaches. And I think one of the things about community wealth building is that notion of collective, not individual. Yeah. And I think a real big point that you brought out there, Simon, was the fact that through the collective approach, it can enable you to overcome the barriers and constraints posed by if you were trying to do things on your own. Yep. So is that fair enough kind of consolidate? Anything you'd like to add to any of that?
Yeah. You talk about the finance that's coming from within the community. If we think of the figure 66 million people in this country, and just over 1 million is Black, our finance ain't going to go far. We need to go outside of that and get that money to bring into our communities. And that is a big thing. We need to get the money from out there into our own.
I wanna add to that and say I think I totally agree, and I feel like for us to really do that, it takes us to come together under one structure or one structure or strategy for us to access those big finances that
Absolutely.
feed the whole community.
Absolutely.
I mean, it takes us coming together.
Absolutely.
Well,
So
yeah. There is that saying, you can't eat an elephant in one bite.
Mm,
Do you know what I mean? I tend to work up, not going for the whole, just take a little bit out of it. So two examples. I mentioned the Heritage Centre. When we did that, I used Ken's analogy at the meeting in Wolverhampton, where we actually said, I don't know if he was there, Michael, but I actually said that the population of Wolverhampton is 250,000. The black community of Wolverhampton is about 12%. I had the statistics for every person over the age of 18. So every person over the age of 18, if they contributed £10, £10, and this was roughly about 212, 213, maybe no, before I hadn't left PwC back then. So it's about 209, 209, 210. The stats, £10. That's all. We could have bought we could have bought the building cash. I didn't get it. I got a few. We managed to raise probably about £3,000. So I took a different view. Now I still hold with the cooperative economics, which is what we call the Heritage Centre is the name, the trading name. The company that owns it is called Ujama, Cooperative Economics. So I'm of that opinion, but I can't sit to wait for the whole to make a movement. So I'd rather, it's 3 or 4. Let's go.
do what we can.
And I was encouraged with the Heritage Centre because I led on writing the business plan, which I'll come back to that point in a moment. But one of the ladies that has now sadly passed, she said to me, "Do it, and they will come.
Mhm.
Do it, and they will come." So I don't wait for the whole anymore. Do it, and they will come.
Can I just actually though go back to the point that Kent made, and I'm going to direct this question to you, Junior, and that is around leverage. Yep. So you're familiar with the concept of leverage. Yep. Right. So in an ideal world or in the commercial context, what might £1, £100, whatever it is, of community finance lever from external sources, picking up on Ken's point that it is not enough to and not appropriate to exclude access to that larger pool of finance.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I work on the leveraging and the percentages basis all the time. One of the things I didn't mention in my introduction is that I do property development. I'm a landlord, and I have helped others through a syndicated business plan of families and friends who get together and have bought properties. And one of the things that I always say every morning I get up, I say, "Thank you very much, Mr. Lloydsman. Thank you very much, Mr. Cheltenham and Gloucester. Thank you very much, Mr. Birmingham and Midshires. Thank you very much, Nationwide." Because I leveraged off them. I worked on the basis of percentage. How much percentage do I need to show you to get your money? And that's what I work on. When we bought the Heritage, what was the percentage we needed? That was what we did. And that's the way it works because, either we can do it outright, which would be my total preference, showing the money and making it happen, or by writing a business plan, how can we make it happen?
Let me just bring Ken in here because Ken might not actually share this, but Opal, wasn't it, was one of the original investors in this facility. And tell us about that, Ken. Why did you go down that route?
When the two CEOs came and saw us and they saw that banner there, they say that's exactly what they're trying to achieve. So when they came out and asked us if we would partner with them, after we checking them out, etc., we said yes. So we, Opal, has invested heavily in this building that we are in now. Now, the first thought was, let's go to our community to get this. And I was actually at a function and I was given the opportunity to speak. There was 405 people in the room. And I said to them, if you was to give £1,000 each, invest £1,000 each, immediately we got £400,000, no matter of fact, £405,000, etc. And it was like, and blah, blah. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen. What these guys did was to purchase this building with our help through the bank. It was financed through the bank, but it is a building for our community. So I hear the argument about let's get cash from. If we think about it, where does our cash come from? From hard work. Who do we work for? I don't work for you. I don't work for Mike, etc. We work for the outside of our community to bring the cash in. But yet that cash that comes in will never go around our community half the time because I have got the cash in. You are a welder, a boiler fitter. I got my black pound. I want to spend it with you. But when you want a boiler, you've got to go to everybody else apart from us. Why? Because we haven't got those firms. We haven't got those enterprise at all. So personally, I think we've got to rethink all this. We've got to think about it because anything that we had, anything that we have is financially at risk. Why? Because we haven't got the only place I can see that is succeeding just about now is a church. Is a church. And if you think about it, we can access anything at all we want. Absolutely anything. The trouble with that is those behind the counter don't look like us. Those behind the counter owns it, but we have to go to them, right? We need to be doing things ourselves. We need that. And I respect that you're doing your houses, etc. And you've got the Heritage Center, etc. Yes. But that's just a small part. We need schools, we need hospitals, we need my grandmother, our grandparents, they need a home. We have to go to another sort of person to put our parents in a home. We got to think bigger.
So I know from the conversations that you and I have had that you are extremely keen on this notion of recirculating the black pound within the community. Are we going far enough with that? Are we going fast enough? Far and fast, as
do you know what?
would say.
For me, it's never fast enough. It's never fast enough because, like Ken says, we need schools, we need hospitals, we need the plumbers, the welders, we actually need the infrastructure. So because if we did have the infrastructure, then our pound could go back around the circle a lot more.
Absolutely.
I think the way I do it is like I'm in a sort of pod now with my friends. So end every month we put some money together. We put a certain amount of money in, and that goes to someone every month. I'm also in another partner hand with family members and the wider community and with what you call it now. Although that helps to build individual wealth, I feel like it also supports the wealth of the community because it gives each individual access to a lump sum of money. So maybe you can go and put it on a mortgage, or you can go and buy this, or you can go and buy that. So for me, it's any little thing that we can do to kind of make it easier for each person within the community. Then I feel like that's what we need to be doing more of. And I feel like there's not enough of us committed to these types of initiatives. So it's, again, like you were saying, you're in a room full of 450 people, everyone says it's a good idea to put £1,000 together, but when you when you actually bring it to the table and say let's do it, then you probably have one or two people, and you raise from out of 450,000 you raise 6,000, and it's for me, in all honesty, it's pathetic as a community. You know, it's pathetic if we can't say everyone do this and have a date and set a date, and we've got a lump sum of money, and now we're going to go and invest in property, building. Also, another thing that I was going to say when you were speaking is, I don't think we invest our money in the right places. So, for instance, not saying this is a bad idea.
Mm.
This is a bad. The legacy center is a bad idea because it's in our community. It's our community. It's a community space. But if we're thinking about making investments or coming together to make investments, the first things that we should be thinking about investing in is things that generate cash. If we're investing in something and it's not generating cash, because once we've invested as groups, as communities, in things that are generating cash, then it's a lot easier for us to do something else, to bring something else to the table, because we've now got a cash cow. We've now got something that brings in £100,000 every 6 months or something like that, because we've all invested in it. Then now we've got something that brings in £100,000 every 6 months. We don't really have to think about everyone dipping into their pocket again too tough, and we still could do that because we've seen the success of what the last dips, the last thing that we've just come together with. So I feel like when we are talking about investments and wanting to make investments, I think that our first thoughts should be on cash generators and not things that are just for the community to use. We need things that are going to create funds, so that allows us to grow our economic level, if that makes any sense.
Thanks,
Uh,
thanks for that. Sorry, was someone going to?
Yeah, I agree, but again, we can't eat the elephant in one go. So we're not gonna switch it on and start generating 100 grand on something straight away. It just, if only it could work like that. I do think that, if you look at your pension savings, that's where one of my lessons came from. You look at your pension savings, you're paying to your pension every month, and then you look where that money goes. There's a bit in office, there's a bit in retail, there's a bit in technology, there's a bit in something else, each of them generating. And the one thing with economics, as Mr. Trump is certainly teaching us now, or we're teaching him back, is that you can't do everything one time. You can't get everything profitable one time. Something has to go down as well as come back up. That's the way it works.
There's an interesting balance here between, if you like, the social objectives that bring people together to invest, to undertake economic activity together. Yep, that was a social objective. And then, if you like, the social objective or the social purpose achieved through the investment itself.
Mm.
Yeah, so we can see that there is a social purpose from Legacy Centre.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and from the Heritage Centre, indeed. But I think as well what Tim is saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the social value is could be bringing people together to create the opportunity for them to invest, even if it is in fintech or whatever, that doesn't in itself generate a benefit to the community.
Mm.
But just is that
Yeah. Well, so for instance, we've got the legacy. Now, the legacy, it took big investment. My question is, all right, it's a space for the community to use, but does it generate cash that can be invested in the community? And if it's not doing that, then for me right now, it's a waste of investment, because we need to be generating. We need to be thinking about generating and growing our economics, our finances, because that's where we're going to be able to offer out more work, get more people trained up. Like it's that. So the focus, if we're talking about building wealth, first thing we need to be doing is looking at what are the things that are going to be able to, and it doesn't, like you say, it doesn't have to be straight away, but we could start investing in homes, properties that people can buy, rent. We could have children's homes, old people's homes that look after old people, and those things generate cash that can be reinvested back into the community. Now, I don't want to make it sound bad, but we have this big lovely space, but who's it helping in the sense of it's just somewhere for us to come. It's not benefiting me. It doesn't benefit my life in reality. It just gives me somewhere to come.
Can I talk to
Yeah,
that?
yeah, sure.
That's interesting. Why? Because our community sees this like a community hub. They can just come in and do what they want, etc. This is a business. When you go to the H suites, yeah, they put on our galas or birthdays, etc., etc. This place does that. When you want to look at private, when you want a session like this, theoretically, you should be paying for this.
And we do.
You do, right? So it's a business. There's a lot of things that happens here in all the rooms that is giving business. And this place is not an easy place to run. It costs hundreds of thousands of pounds to run.
Yeah.
So we've got to make the money. The thing about it is this. If our black community would use it the way it should be used, one, if they would pay the price that is charged, two, we would be far better off. But because we see it as black owned, we think it's charity. You know, we can go there, we can discuss price and say we're not paying, etc. But it's a business, a viable one, etc. Because it now can cut out some of Mr. Singh, some of Mr. Patel, and some of Mr. Chow work, and it comes here.
Let me just
Yeah.
bring in the audience here. And I want to go back to a point that had been made. I think all three of you made this point. And Simon, you summed it up when you said there's not enough commitment. I just want to bring the audience in for your views here, which is to say, why is it that we can have an event with the 100 people? 100 people at the end of the day can stand up and applaud the ideas that come forward. Yeah, go home, and then only 3 will come back and say, "Here's my check." Why is that? Do you think, as an audience?
You got to take that too.
Anyone wishing to speak before I?
So we could have just left it, yeah.
No?
Go on, Ashley. Oh.
It's probably because people don't want to come out of pocket and actually give money, not because they don't believe in the idea, but probably they don't have the money to give. That might be why they don't invest. I'm not sure. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Or they don't believe in the idea.
Excuse
I think, like the young lady said, you talked about the wealth is not in the community. And although they will have the heart, maybe they won't have the actual finances to give. And I think also as well, there's trust. Sometimes we don't trust each other. So we always wondering, where is that money going to go? Is it going to go to the place that they're saying that it's going to go to?
Thank you. Let's pick up on that notion of trust. When we think of cooperative principles, yeah, we think of cooperative principles from people getting together, working together, investing together, taking risks together, making decisions together, and all of this needs to be some glue that binds all of this together. So, just in terms of making all of that work, what do you think are the biggest challenges for making that work?
Change of narrative. Why I say that? We use this word trust in a distrusting way, right? Opal, we don't use trust. We use the word contract. We got contract, we got good governance, we got policies that covers absolutely everything. We've been going out for 10 years, and no one can say them here say money short, man gone with money, etc., etc. So the trust, it has happened in the past, don't get me wrong, where man has taken your cash and run. But that has changed completely. However, the only thing that hasn't changed is the narrative around that.
Yeah. There is a challenge in that word trust, and there's a challenge in our belief in each other. But, I'll give you by way of example. About 20 years ago, I gave the very principle Simeon mentioned the partner scheme. So I gave the very principle of the partner scheme and said to people, this partner scheme that we have, we don't scale it up. We don't scale it up to the point where we could be in that better position. So I gave the example. If you look at it, taking the partner system, we do it for a rotation of 10 hands, 20 hands. Then we start again. And I said to people, let's take the same partner hand and don't rotate it for 5 years. Don't rotate it for 5 years. Leave it there. When we leave it there, let's have a plan of agreement of action. What we're going to use it for. Don't take it. It's for a purpose other than to pay your gas bill or your electric bill or whatever. Let's scale it up. I got 3 takers, 3 people takers. And I said, well, we're not going to be able to work it like that. So then I worked on a different principle. Let's take the same partner hand again, because we think it's only in the black community and we didn't start it. We're just the only ones that never scaled it. So let's take the same partner hand again and keep it there again. But let's my principle went out the window. I said, let's use it for property now. Let's buy property. So I said, for every person who comes into this, they must show that they mean it, drop £1,000. If you mean it, drop £1,000. Then when they dropped it, I said, all you have to then do, because we can't quite get there to buy the property yet, then we agree the contract, which it was actually, and I set them up as a limited company, you pay £200 a month. The agreement still has to stand. It runs for 5 years. Nobody takes no money out, and then you buy a house. I said, in the first 3 months, you'll buy your first house. We did that. Wrote the business plan for them. We did that. And I said, you won't be able to get your another business, your property, because remember, if there's 6 of you, which there was, everyone's doing it. Now, I said, when you count the first house coming in, it's a contributor. Because the rental income is now contributing. So you had 6 people. Now you've got 7, counting the partner, the house, and you're scaling it up. We've got them in 2-3 years, just under 3 years, another house. So don't take it out, keep it rolling, and you can keep scaling it up. Now that's the only example that's still running that I've got. That's the only example. And I say to people, if we keep thinking short cycles, we're never going to get the scale. We can't get the growth. You can't get it in one hit of a partner hand cycle. You can't even buy a car nowadays, which is what we used to use it for first. You know what I mean? You get your partner and you want to go and go buy a car. That's why I came out to the partner. And I still say to people, I would go in it again if the principle was scale.
I just wanted to add to what he was saying, because what he was saying about the houses and the buying houses was exactly what I was talking about. Investing in something that then can, have funds taken out of what's been invested into, go into the next project or the next whatever it is. And then in terms of trust, I'm going to be honest, I agree with the lads. We've got to go beyond trust and start dealing with structures, systems, and processes.
Absolutely.
And once we're working with a proper structure, proper systems and processes, we don't have to. Trust is irrelevant.
Absolutely.
But is it irrelevant?
It's not, but it should be.
Well, what I was going to ask is, and it's a bit of a devil's advocate here, is that not just relocating the trust issue? So it's like having trust and confidence in the governance,
Yeah.
in the
Defo.
transparency, in the accountability.
But I'm agreeing, and I agree that's what it should be anyway. Because do you know what? Even just in trust in general, me trusting people, I don't trust people like that. I get to know people and trust them to be who they are. So we have to understand everybody's human beings. We all have our human flaws. So rather than trusting the human flaws, which could be dependent on how somebody's feeling at the time, or if someone's going through a bad patch or someone's going through something crazy right now. So it could be dependent on that. So rather dealing with that, let's have a proper structure, proper processes and systems in place, and then we can just trust that. We can put our trust in that and ensure that that's working properly.
Wonderful. Any comments that anyone in the audience wants to make? One second.
All I was going to say is, I run a business myself, and if everything runs, I can't like, if you if your business looks more professional from the outside, I find that, so say people book in, there's a certain system that they follow to book. If you carry yourself a certain way, people are more likely to trust you anyway if you act more professional. So I think the putting like policies and stuff in place, it automatically makes people trust you more than if you say someone's messaging me through a text message to book, they prefer to do it through a proper system. So already they think that you're professional and you carry yourself a certain way if you do things like that.
Mhm.
You know.
Can you just share what is the latest your business?
So I've got a beauty salon. I do like tattooing and bits, and I'm a nurse as well, so I've got my own shop. But obviously I started out just working in somebody else's salon, so then went out on my own. But then you start learning things as you go. So you carry yourself a certain way, people will trust you before they even get to meet you, if you get what I mean. Yeah.
Thanks very much for that. I just want to follow that up, because you made the point that you started out working for somebody else, and we probably all started out working for somebody else, but not just that. We probably all started out with, if you like, a blank sheet when it came to wealth. Yep. And when I was doing some research, 10% of the multi-millionaires in the UK inherit their wealth. Yeah. Whether that be in property, whether it be through passing on legacies from business. How do we get on that? How do we get into that, Jim?
That's impossible.
Get into the
Don't agree. Can't.
you on the spot here,
Yeah.
because I think that this is consistent with the notion of
Yeah.
starting small.
Yeah, for sure. And I can't agree with what Ken just said, which is impossible. I don't believe anything's impossible. I do think it's our mindset that has to change. So, as the lady mentioned there, it caused me to think about when I say when I was young and lazy. I went to do a course at college, and it was a BTEC national. And I looked at the options. I had to choose one option, and it was an evening option. So I thought, I don't want to really be here in the evening, but what's the easiest one? And I saw banking. I thought that'll be easy. That's just telling you how you pay money into the bank, and the bank does whatever it with it. I'll choose that one. And I tell you, that was the best lesson I ever learned. Because the lecturer stood up and he said, them days we had £1 notes. And he took out a £1 note and he said, everybody take out your £1 note. Took it out. He said, I promise to pay the bearer. I said, yes. So he said, look at money as a tool. Money is a tool. It is part of your toolkit. Whatever you got, that's all you can do. So what I disagree with is that I take a clear view, and I took it many years ago. If I'm looking to get wealthy today, it's not going to happen. If I'm looking for my children to get wealthy, that can happen. And if I'm looking for my grandchildren to be wealthier still, that can happen. So what it means is I'm the one that's got to start it today. So it's a bit like, I don't know if many people read the Bible, but I always give the analogy around this to be Moses. Moses took the children of Israel out of Egypt, led them for how many years through the desert. Then when he got them to the point, God said, look over there. That's where they're going, but you're not. That's it. So if we're looking to have the money to flash it, to run go Louis Vuitton, to run go Dior, no. If we're looking to say, I want my children in a better place, I want them to be in a better start, I want them to understand the principles as money as a tool, lay the foundations. And don't look to be the one spending it there, telling them to keep it, which is what that does. So I did a talk a few months ago, UK, Michael, and I called it Money, Property and You. And on one of the slides, it clearly says, wealthy people plan for 3 generations. poor people plan for Saturday night.
And Simeon, the consumerism, the rise of consumerism, people are bombarded constantly, you know, on their phones, or social media, on television, from friends, constantly bombarded with adverts. You know, everyone trying to take their money away from them. So how then, you know, how can we lay that foundation, as Junior said, that is projecting our sights beyond Saturday and into next generation, into the generation.
I think we really need discipline in terms of where we're spending our money and who we're spending our money with. And then also, I think we need some real discipline on around working together. Like if you look at other communities, like the Asian communities and even like the Eastern Europeans that have not too long come into the country. I mean, they'll all you'll have probably three generations living in one house, and then they're all 5 or 6 people in the household working on a full-time wage. They're all bringing that one wage into the household. Then they've got another house. They've got a whole another house right next door. This house they've purchased it. Now they're purchasing another house right next door. They're purchasing a house on this road because they're all bringing their finances together. Do you know, it's not we as a community, we think too much individualistically. We think on an individual basis, what have I got, what can I do, and that kind of stuff. Where if we start to really operate and think on a community and family level and do things as a community, as groups, I think it's going to be a lot easier to build generation. Well, you know, it's like what I said in the beginning, me with my one wage, I can only do so much, but 5 of us with the same wage, we can pay our bills and still have something to invest in that will benefit our children, you know. And if we can do that on a number of occasions and find a way to make it work like clockwork, and it's a cycle, and we've got this here now, we've done this here, and we've done this here, and we've done it 5 or 6 different times, then we are creating generational wealth for our another generation. And we can probably do that in a generation if we're disciplined in the way we do it.
Okay, changing the narrative, how do you see that in terms, again, as someone's just illustrated there, moving away from this consumerism into a much more pragmatic approach to laying a foundation for intergenerational wealth?
We have got to consume. We just got to consume the right things. It's kind of hard. It's very, very hard. I don't think anyone has done any research around how much money Black people brings into their community. To build generational wealth, it's not about 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 pounds a week. You'll never get anywhere because something is going to crop up where you're going to dip in that cash. Yeah. We have got a chance, right? You say you want to buy houses, etc. Nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to use your own money to buy it don't make sense. And I think you will tell us if I'm right or wrong. The world is run on credit. The world. We as a people will try to buy everything cash. I want my £1,000 shoes cash. I want my £500,000 house cash, etc. No. Put your deposit down, pay monthly. If you can pay a little bit more, you do that, right? But always make sure you got some cash. Always. And that's what I'm saying. The narrative got to change. The mentality have to change as well. If we listen, our parents done fantastically well. Fantastically well. They came from some ghetto back home, some of them, right? They came here, they achieve a house. And some of them left that house to us. And as soon as them pass out, we sell it, Bridget. You know what I mean? What have we got now? We're trying to build again. Are we going to just keep on trying to build and build and build? No, we've got to come together somehow. I don't know how, somehow, and sit down and figure it out. And my other thing is, because we are in this country, being who we are, it's harder. It's harder. right? A man will buy a house leasehold, and you say to him, no, Virgin, buy freehold. In this country, you don't own it. It's a Queen's land. If them say they want that house, no matter how much it is, no matter if it's free or leasehold, they are going to take it. We have to get the right plan. That's sitting down and thinking things through and come up with something. Houses are great when they go, right? But houses don't earn you that much unless you can buy it at the right price, minimum wage, and minimum price, and you can sell it at a good price. Yeah.
Well,
We got to think these things through.
yeah, I agree with you, Ken, to the point about the Queen's Land. But bear in mind, they don't come knocking down houses every day, but they will do, and you're quite right. So bear this in mind. One of the things that we need to better do, my view, is that we need to plan.
Absolutely.
And there's nothing wrong with writing a plan. Oftentimes we don't write the plan. We have the talk. And when you say to a man, this is what it is, this is what we're trying to do, down to perceptions, down to where that person's coming from. And I truly believe this is all, again, in my progression through life, is that when you write the plan, you have more chance. So I wrote, before Buy-to-Let came in, I started buying property before Buy-to-Let actually started. And I wrote a business plan. I put it together, and I said to a financial advisor I had at the time, I said, if I go to the banks, they don't know me. So if I give this to you, you go to the banks that you know and see where it goes to. He did that. He rang me up excited. He said, I showed this plan to Cheltenham and Gloucester, and they said yes. They said, you sure? They said yes? Yes. What I showed them was, if I buy one, I already owned a house. If I bought one house, another house, if they lend me the money to buy another house, I'd give them my existing house. So they got 2 for 1. And I said, if you'd let me, once I get the next money together, I'll show you, if you give me the 2, I'll give you 3. And that's exactly how my start was. I wrote the plan, and that's what they did. Now you can move around thereafter. You work on finance. And the biggest, I won't say fraudster, the biggest, I won't say criminal, the biggest exponent of it is Donald Trump. The man's gone bankrupt 3 times and they're still giving money. You know what I mean? Credit.
Don't look like you.
Run with it. Use it. I say to you, I said it early on. The banks give me money. I said, thank you very much, Lloyds Bank. And that's made me some money. They're making money, I'm making money.
Let me pick up on that, because this notion of credit, you know, I mean, we understand credit, we all understand credit. But we understand that 1 in 3 black people in the UK is in net debt.
Yeah. Well, not just black people, but yeah,
Yeah.
we are, yeah. Massive deficit.
Mm.
We're in net debt.
Oh, more than we are.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Live on credit card and overdraft.
Mm.
So how do we solve the two?
Consumer mentality.
And I
Easy,
was
though.
going to say that the reason why that is because we've managed debt poorly. So I think we need to again change the way change the way we're looking at it. And I think what I was going to say is that when I was talking about investing in properties and that, I was actually talking about that using credit. And again, if there's 6 of us around the table, we should have access to bigger pots of credit. So it's about really coming for me, the biggest and most important thing is us doing it together and not in silos. We're going to find it a lot harder in silo than we are as groups.
Mm.
You know, so for me, the biggest issue is how do we come together more, bring our resources and finances together more so we can do more.
I looked into a few years ago, as I mentioned, this investment trust thing, because that's where I see it. And I did discuss it with a good friend of mine. I use Derek Anderson as a sounding board from time to time. And I ran this by him. I said, do you think we could get an investment trust where we invest, we the community invest, but it has to be for 5 years. I can't stipulate it more strongly than that. It has to be for 5 years, because you have to allow the money to come in, to then use it, to turn it over, to use it again before you can give a return. But if we can do an investment trust, do you think what's the process? And he mentioned it to me that, you know, you really have to going to register with the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority, and they're going to want £1 million. So can we run it unofficial? You know, as a company? I said, well, possibly, yeah. So I think we can do it, but it's again a plan, because, you know, sometimes when we let it go, we think we've got to get it back because of this short-term cycle around the partner, because that creates a short-term cycle in our minds. And yet, you know, we've put into a pension, we're not going to see that for 40 years. Do you know what I mean? We're not going to see it for 40 years. What we're talking about is a shorter cycle than that of 5 years. 5 years at least of investment. You get the reports, you get it. You know, for me, it goes even beyond. It's not even about houses. We're owning shops. You know, when I said to the syndicated guys that if you work well, we could buy shops together. Pubs were going begging for conversion to flats. But we weren't in the mix because we didn't have that resources. All I'm saying is if we scale it, it's not about houses, it can move to shops. It's not about shops, it can go to offices. It's not about offices, we could go to industrial units. There's nothing. That's the mixture of investment. One of them will be up, two of them will be up, one might be part way down. That's just the way it works in the economics of time. But what it does mean, it's an asset that we can then trade on to give return on.
I want to add to that, you know, because I feel like one thing that we haven't spoke about is that by doing these things that we've been talking about, it will then allow us to start creating like our black construction firm, our black owned companies that can take on the contracts. So when we are doing these ventures, then we're bringing in our own people who are giving the contracts. 'Cause I mean, that's what the other guys do.
Yeah.
You know, that's what the other guys do. They're giving they're getting these big contracts, or they're putting themselves in positions, job roles. And when these big massive contracts are coming in, they're giving it to their mates and their cousin, brother, and this and that. And we were missing that. And so a part of wealth building as a community is having that infrastructure where we do have people in positions where they are seeing where the big contracts are. They have some form of power over certain decisions of where the big contracts go in the city, and they can hand it out to their people, their own people. We actually need that, and I think that's something that we're lacking in terms of community wealth building. Asians are probably at a stage where they can do it now because they've got a whole heap of people in the council, a whole heap of people here, a whole heap of people in this organization. So they're seeing where these big contracts are going for building and developing the infrastructure of the city.
Mm.
And I think we need to get our hands on that. We need piece of that. We definitely need piece of that.
I think there's some two things that need to be in place here. One is some kind of control over purchasing of a decision making as to where contracts are being and the other one then be on the other side in terms of there being the infrastructure
to be able to
deliver
on
on that. And we talk about large contracts. And the other day I was trying to think of who is the largest black employer in London?
I was thinking Nehemiah Housing.
I was thinking future housing, social housing.
Okay, Roger Telfia.
Mm.
I mean, to be frank, when I was trying to think of this, I actually thought of as well. Yeah. But yes, potentially future housing and then my housing. But at the time I was asking myself, why have we not got more black businesses of scale?
Can I go answer in part, but go back to Simeon's quick point about the builders and so forth. So I was until last year chairman of a black housing association over in Nottingham, which is the largest of the black associations in the country. Tum Housing. Nehemiah went through the same thing, so I can partly answer for them. So in starting up, both of the associations have been going over 30 years. They grew and they used tradesmen. So they said to the tradesmen, you can do this, you can do responsive, do the routine, but we'll give you the work. As they grow and take on more, they say, well, we need you to be a bit more responsive. How can you grow your team? Can you grow your builders, plumbers, etc., etc.? No, man, my alright as me is. Honestly, a number of them said, no, man, my alright as me. I'm just doing enough to keep it. And so we couldn't get them to scale. So these associations, bear in mind what I just said, both of them have been going over 30 years. They've left behind the majority of their black tradesmen and contractors because you can't grow out of kilter. You know what I mean? You can't grow and keep pulling them up if they don't want to come up. See what I mean? So I take on board fully the point about builders, etc. That is exactly how it started. In 1985, I think it was, when the government announced that it was going to support the development of black housing associations. We had a significant number, and I was working for the regulator at the time that registered them. We had a significant number of them across the country. Sadly, a number of them have gone, but also sadly, the contractors that worked with them across the country, I can't name you one that scaled up. And that's 30 years of growth. 30 years that if you tagged and they supported your development and tagged and you got an apprenticeship route coming through there, didn't go with them.
You know what? I feel like you're making a good point. Because what you're kind of saying there is, and this might be an actual problem with us as a community. What you're kind of saying is that some of us, or on a whole, we're too comfortable with our position right now. We're not uncomfortable enough to say,
Yeah.
to give some discipline and determination to switch it up and change the thing. Get to the next level. So it seems like, even though a lot of us say we want more for the community or we want more for ourselves, we're too comfortable up in our position to break free from that and
Absolutely.
and really
Mhm.
get the uncomfortability and go forward.
There's a number of tradesmen that through the properties that I do manage properties for the landlords as well, and there's a number of tradesmen that I said, take on one more person, and we could really be cooking on gas. No. So I got a number. So I even said to them, I took them out to lunch, took 3 of them out to lunch one time. I said, if the 3 of you just came together, formed one company, one van, we could do it. I'd support you because you got this, never mind what you could then get from others. They didn't do it. They said, everyone's comfortable, one.
Yeah, what is that? What is that? What is that?
What is that?
And they all know each other. They all know each other. They all know each other.
I mean, there's a comfort zone. But when you think about comfort zones, and stepping out of comfort zones, what kind of comes to mind? Because to me, like, stepping out of comfort zones is about stepping into the unknown. It is about taking risks. What is business? What is
Yeah, it's all about
It's about risk. So how is it then there's some risks that you can take, that we will take, and others that you won't?
I'll give you an analogy, which is what I use to answer that question in part, because we don't take risks, but we take risk every day. So the analogy I always give is that when I first learned to drive, my first car was a Vauxhall Viva. I could get 50 out of it. You floor it and you could just about get it up to 50. Now, I don't drive a Vauxhall Viva. I drive something that gives me far more responsiveness. You know what I mean? If I was still driving, if I was still cautious, if I was a cautious person, I'd be in the Fiesta, which is slightly faster but bigger than a Viva. But you know what I'm saying? So sometimes we'll take the risk on the car, we'll take the risk on something else, but we won't take the risk in business because we can't see it today, and you can't always see it today. That's why the perspective for me is what the challenge. People can see themselves driving a car tomorrow and the next one in 2 years' time. In business, we all know it takes a longer effort to make it. But once you do break through and establish it, it can blossom. And that's really what you got to do.
And ask these guys, like, if they feel like we're too comfortable.
Yeah. And are we too comfortable? Yeah, in your business, are you too comfortable to open another salon? Sorry, one second.
Yeah, we
No.
need to pick you up outside. Sorry.
What I was saying is, no, I'm not too comfortable, but I'm not that kind of person. I think it depends on your mind frame. Like when I was getting my salon, mum and dad told me it weren't a good idea, but I was like doing it anyway. So you come to see it or not. Do you know what I mean? And for me, I already know like where I want to be. I think eventually I want a line of shops, so then someone will buy that line of shops from me, and then I can sit back and relax. But it depends on your mind frame, and also what kind of your background too. I think if you come from like, not for everyone, because some people they can pick it up later on in life, but if you come from a family where the hard workers or do you know what I mean, like go-getters, or they've kind of instilled certain things in you, then I feel like you're more likely to go out and do you know what I mean? But also everyone's in that 9 to 5, vibe. Like everyone's used to it. You go to school, you're told to go get a job, who you're going to work for, not what company you're going to own, who you're going to work for. So actually, it's instilled in us from like early, if you get what I mean. That's probably why most people don't do it. It's too risky. During COVID, I left my permanent job, and even when I was leaving, everyone else was really concerned. For me, I was good because I know I was going to be fine regardless. But a lot of people are concerned here because they're not used to it. It's your frame of mind. So yeah. That's what I think. Background.
Yeah, I think what she's saying is right. Also, it's your environment as well. If you're around certain people, you pick up their mindset. So you've got to be aware of your environment. Crabs in the barrel as well. That type of dynamic. If you're rising up, some people want to bring you down, and that's not just that. Just might be a negative comment or not willing to give you the right links or something like that. But I was gonna say to the chair, because basically you said about credit and business. Using business credit as well is a very strong way of like getting further in things, because your personal credit can only get you so far. But if you set up a limited company and you've been trading like for 6 to 9 months, I'm sure people know on there know about it. You can open up lines of credit, and those lines of credit, even if it goes bad, it doesn't reflect on your personal credit. So that's the benefit of it. So even if it goes bad and that endeavor, you can't actually make money from it, it doesn't have a negative effect on your credit score. So that's something that's a key that other communities do that we need to look into, basically.
Thanks very much for those two contributions. Can I pick up one of the points that was made? And it sort of reminded me, and maybe during this touched on something, which is that I think a lot of black businesses are what we call lifestyle businesses. Yeah, they're there to generate income to enable the owners to live a particular lifestyle, as opposed to the point that you made, which is about starting businesses in order to grow them and sell them. And so again, it comes back to this notion of changing the narrative, changing mindsets, changing cultures, right? And generally we try to be solution focused. We always try to be solution focused. Practical steps. What are they? What are they? And to be honest, anybody help us here. What are those practical steps that we can start to lay in order to change culture, to change narrative, to change the way we look at this?
We have to get people visioning. So the vision for getting to 6 shops is a good aspect.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? For ultimately, when that plan starts to be put in place, then yes, sell the business, sell it. You know, we can't get hooked on, oh, it's one business. What are you going to do for retirement? Because you know that one business only generates a lot an income. Is unless it's super good, it won't generate enough for you to pension off, and that's quite right. And the gentleman mentioned the crabs in the barrel. I said to my children when they was growing up, your circle of friends will change. Don't be scared. Let them change, because sometimes you're holding on to the wrong people, just pulling you down. Let them go. So ultimately, the crabs in the barrel, let them go. The vision, build on it, and ultimately that self belief. You know, go for what you want. You know, be a bit more daring. You have to take risk. You know, we're at the traffic lights. We might think we want to take off because we're in the wrong lane. We're going to take a quicker move than the next man. It's the same in business. And I say to people genuinely, no one ever opens the door to you and say, "Oh, come into my sector. How much customers you want to help get you going? Take 10 no, take 15 of my customers. Will that get you going?" No, no one ever does that. Go get. Go get. And I'm not saying be ruthless, but I'm saying be strong in what you want to do. And this other thing that you mentioned about lifestyle business is absolutely right. When I did do um my dissertation for my masters, one of the things that I realized I would do it on black businesses because I was totally needed to better understand where we're at. And when I started to delve into the study of this, and this was up and down, taking national data down to the regional levels of West Midlands, the majority of industries that we're in, sectors I should say, is hairdressing, barbering, nail technicians, catering, and that's fast food, not too much on the restaurant side, not sufficient numbers, a few pubs, few licensed pubs, etc. That's where we sat, and that was because the partner was the easy scaling, easy scaling. Didn't really grow them, so they quickly go. We start again or let it go. The thing is, I realized then, I still realize now, we don't even consider buying a franchise. We don't look at franchise, it's too tough. So we always think we've got to start it. We've got to start it. You can buy a license of somebody for a franchise, run it. Yes, you got to pay them. But then I just say to them, well, thank you very much for giving me a start. Oh, can I take 2 of your franchises? Oh, yeah, carry on. Thank you very much for giving me a start. It doesn't have to be the same model every time. We can't do it because I certainly don't drive a Vauxhall Viva after 40 years of driving. I mean, we don't stick with it. Move it up, move it on.
Do you know what? I was just gonna say, to well, in terms of changing the culture, I think we need to see more examples of people doing it.
Be a pioneer.
Yeah.
Be a pioneer.
And
Don't look for nobody else. Be yourself. Go be the first, and someone else will follow.
like, we definitely need more examples of people doing it. So the younger generation can see that this is something that we do. Until it becomes normalized, we need to make it normalized. So we need to see a lot more people doing it. And to do that, I feel like when we see individuals doing those kind of things and having those business adventures, I think as a community we should go out of our way to support it. I don't think that is done enough. It is done sometimes on a small scale, but I think we should literally go out of our way to ensure that the business is successful, and not just the business it is successful. We did have a comment from the back. Well, we're going to got Michael doing his gym session today.
All I was going to say is that as well. I think the problem is a lot of people think. So I have a few people. I talked to a few people who are trying to start up their businesses because there's enough to go around basically. Although I do whatever I do, I still give people who are in the same field as me like advice or whatever it is because there's enough people to go around. There's enough clientele, customers to go around. But also, they always say to me, "Oh, I'm not good at anything though." but I wasn't good at anything. It doesn't matter. You can pick things up and you can learn.
Mm.
Like everyone starts out somewhere. And you're not always good when you start, but if you keep on going, you'll get better at whatever skill it is. So I think a lot of people are frightened because they're like, but I'm not good at anything, or but I have nothing that do you know what I mean? So I think that's one of the reasons as well.
And I'm going to say that can be down to what they've seen around them. So that's why, going back to the point that I was making, if we see more people doing it, those having those business ventures, franchises and stuff like that, then it's going to be easier for the younger generation or people around you to do it, because now the 3 of their friends have done it. Okay, so 3 people in my circle have done it. I must be able to do it. You know.
The first business I started was actually as a door. I started working as a doorman part-time to help me get to pay for my going to university. So it was happen chance, and sometimes that's what I say to people. It's just happen chance that a friend of mine who was a policeman came to me and said they were introducing a door training scheme, and I used to run a training program. So he said, could you write a training program for door supervisors? So, yeah, man, I could do that. Haven't done this door work for about a year now. I can do that. So I wrote the program. We got the contract. So I started teaching doormen. Next thing, we get friction because some of the doormen wanted the contract to teach doormen themselves. So no problem. The council said our program was the best one. So we start teaching doormen. More doormen came into the sector, more doors, etc. After a few years, I said to my friend Henry, who was in business, I was a bit fed up with this. You want to buy me out? So he bought me out because I was a bit fed up with doing it. And I was still working full time as well. So then it got to the point where I was listening to, and funny enough, I saw the man yesterday on Tuesday. I was listening to a speech by David Blunkett, who was education minister for Labour at the time. They'd just gone in, and he said that children in care were leaving care without any formal education. I thought I could write something around that. I just happened to meet at the same time. So sometimes, and I'll come back to my point my full point in a bit, but I just met this lady who wanted to rent a house. So I had one of my houses available and was chatting. I said, "What do you do?" Because I want to working people. She said, "Well, I'm actually full-time lecturer at Bilston College, but I'm just about to take redundancy." So, and then what are you going to do? So she said, "Well, I'm looking around for work and ideas." So I said, "I've got an idea." I only met the woman, barring 4 days or so, but I felt a vibe that I could work with her. I explained what my idea was. Blunkett said there's an opportunity teaching children in care. This is how I take it on now. I want that opportunity. So we sat down, talked it out, mapped it out, said, right, we can do it. Started writing programs between us, then we started selling. So we brought one more guy in and we started selling these care packs, teaching packs, education, English, maths to care homes. Started selling them, they bought them. After 6 months, they wanted geography or history added. We did that. They came back to us after 9 months and said, "Look, we can't use the care staff anymore. Can you supply teachers?" Yeah, man, we can provide teachers. Then I have one teacher borrowing her. I said, "You go in there. Go in there. You start teaching and we'll see how we go." Carried on. Wanted more teachers, recruited, we took on teachers, took on teachers. After about 8 years, 7 years, we had 21 teachers employed up and down the country. There was no blueprint for that. There was nobody else running the door companies, training companies. Nobody else teaching children in care with these education packs. We were the first. All I'm saying to people is, don't be afraid to be the first. Don't wait on anybody. Go get it done. And have that self-belief. Can you do it? Yeah, man. Then work out how you're going to make it happen. But just make sure you deliver.
So, all right. So go get it done. So this kind of brings me to my next question, which is to say, if people here, okay, if people here now, having listened to all of this, are kind of feeling, yeah, man, yeah, I need to kind of get into this. Right? What can they do? What are the next steps? for them? How might they join something that exists? How might they even find out what exists? How may they start something of their own?
So I'm gonna quickly say, just because I've got examples. First of all, find yourself like-minded people. So look in your friendship circle, who's on the same wavelength as you, who's disciplined enough and willing enough to actually start something, whether it's down to an idea of just bringing your funds together to do something. So there's definitely that. So speaking to people and having the conversation. Obviously, there's, as you said, there's initiatives. I've joined an initiative, Nubian Cooperative Society, and that's about bringing resources together to invest in properties, but then also having businesses within the city that offer discounts because they're a part of your community. So being able to boost businesses by having a large community that will go and support them, but then also for having that large community to be able to get what's the word? Discounted products or services, and then once investment is developed, there's opportunities to invest in businesses that will generate funds and pay dividends.
I would agree with everything that you just said, but I'm going to take a shortcut. If you go and visit our people, our legacy, we can talk to you through things. In some cases, also, if you've got a business plan, we can help you financially if it's a good one. We can certainly signpost you to people who you can go and see and check out with, etc. But we Opal, we do a certain amount of investments. We invest in Black businesses, etc. We will try and help you financially if you've got a new big business as such. And as I say, we will signpost you to any persons that we think that your business needs. Here you go.
Okay, totally agree with what you said there, Simeon, and with you, Ken. Important about the business plan.
Yeah.
Most definitely important about the networking. You have to do your networking, but you also have to look and start using and contemplating money to be a tool. It is a tool. I started doing this talk a few months ago, about 6 months ago, and it was an idea that I was running with, and I spoke to several landlords, Black landlords. I said, "What do you think of this idea?" And I called it Money, Property, and You. And the whole thing about that is to firstly see money as that tool. So money is that money that we get, whether or not through work, the principle of dividing it up. Live a little, spend a little, save a little. What are you saving it for? What are you going to do with it? So that's a plan. The property, well, part of it, I would encourage, we mentioned earlier about living in this country, but not enough of us in the Black community actually own our own homes, whether it's a flat or a house. Home ownership, asset ownership is important because it's part of that wealth provision. Ken touched on it, passing it on with some doctrine really about what to do with it and how to make it much more viable for the next generation coming up. And the you factor is, well, it's about you. So you need your pension for the future. I talk about pension. I talk about home investment for buy to let, if that's where some people want to go. You don't all have to go down that route. But if you're spending your money living on a bit, enjoying life to an extent, but you got something that you know you're going to use it for business or investment or even your pension, which not enough of us take ownership of. And I do have a genuine concern about us and our pension, because even now the government's changed the rules around pension again, which comes in from this month, April, which impacts again on people, which will impact more on us because we're at the bottom. So I would encourage everybody to look carefully at their pension, because there's some holes in there. You think you're going to retire at 67, you might find that it's pushed out to 70 and plus. So that's why I started doing this talk, Money, Property, and You. just as a means of me passing it on what I know, but you do have to pay. But then if it was free, you wouldn't value it.
Thanks very much. I'll invite you in a moment just to any final comments. But before I do that, are there any final comments or questions from the audience?
No.
No, no. Thank you.
Any more?
Let's get a roving mic.
All I was going to say is, you guys were saying about people, how do they set themselves up for a business or, like business plans and stuff. The other piece of advice that I give to people, usually nurses who work in the hospital, of like businesses that they can start and things like that, I usually say to them, like, when you're on the internet or when you're scrolling online, what kind of things are interesting to you? What kind of things do you like to watch? It's usually stuff like that I'd say we'll start off with that, because if you've got interest in watching them, you might have interest in doing them. So yeah, that's one of the things advice I give to them. That's it.
Thanks again. So, any final comments from anyone on the panel before I sort of try and do a little bit of a summing up? I mean, I think it's been a really interesting and valuable discussion, and hearing different perspectives. Hearing, when I was thinking about how we would do this in terms of Simeon, trust was certainly one of the things that we identified, and it was really good to hear how you switched that. Particularly, Ken, what you were talking about, having the governance systems and all of those things in place and building confidence through those systems. That's really interesting. It's really interesting as well to hear that there's no shortage of ideas, and your point about what is the source of ideas is really interesting, and the points about how we can lever finance and bring people together, working from social networks to begin with. And as I said, we always try to think of what practical things might we do. We're not large as an organisation, but we believe that even as small as we are, there are things that we can do to create ripples that create waves. And one of the things that comes to my mind is that maybe think about some a quarterly kind of forum or networking meeting where these kind of discussions can continue. Because I think one of the points that is really clear to me was, as much as we know a lot and have a lot of experience, what's really refreshing is hearing people say, we don't know. Yeah, we don't know how to change culture. We don't know how to change the narrative. It's a real challenge. And I'm not suggesting that we know, not whatsoever. But I do think that through dialogue, through coming together, that light bulb moment will happen. Yeah, where what, this is what we can do. Or we have this opportunity here, or we've heard that this is what happened in Manchester. So I think that is something that we will continue to speak about and have conversations with Ken and others. So on that,
That sounds good though, in terms of moving it forward, having created those spaces to have more of these conversations where we can start planning to do things and create those like more. So look that. Yeah, man. Thank you for everyone for coming. Yes.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, and thanks for the engagement as well. I would hope to see you again, maybe. It's good to have you back.
Mike, can I say one thing? And I think it's important. We talk about us coming together as a community, etc. But I think also organizations should come together as well.
100%.
There's no point we have two organizations doing the same thing in the same county. Doesn't make sense. Let's get our heads together and go forward with it.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, and that whole thing around collaboration. We had collaboration, didn't we? When Nathan came, we had a really good discussion around collaboration. And again, comfort zones,
Mhm.
but issues that came from there. We've got a lot to do, right? But it's a big opportunity.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yep. So thanks very much to everyone for joining. I'm not sure what the timescale is, but this will be online
About a month.
within about a month. So look out for it.
And there's others as well. So we're just about to upload the next one about the importance of relationship. The one about vaccinations is up and clips are going out. So
Yeah.
there's stuff coming up.
And if we've not got your contact details, please see us afterwards and make sure that we've got them, so that we can keep you all informed. Thanks very much.
Love.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, very good.
Powers.